1397. Florence. An orphan sits in a cramped room above a wool shop. His name is Giovanni di Bici de' Medici. He has nothing. 500 florins, borrowed from relatives who pity him. Fast forward 1 century. His family owns the Pope, not metaphorically, literally. 4 Medici popes, 12 generations of debt. An empire built not on armies, but on interest rates the church said didn't exist. This is the story of how a bankrupt orphan hacked the financial system of Europe, and why Goldman Sachs, JP Morgan, and BlackRock are just playing the same game with better suits. Chapter 1. The Garage Startup. Giovanni de' Medici starts with 500 florins. To put that in perspective, that's like starting a hedge fund today with your uncle's $5,000 loan. Pathetic. But Giovanni isn't selling wool. He's selling something far more valuable. Trust. The year is 1397. Banking is controlled by ancient families. The Bardi, the Peruzzi. Giants who lent to kings, giants who went bankrupt when those kings didn't pay them back. Giovanni sees the flaw in their model. Never lend to kings. Lend to the church. Snap to present. Jamie Dimon. 1,980 seconds. Chemical bank. Regional player. He starts small, borrows credibility, merges up. By 2008, JP Morgan is too big to fail. The Fed's personal ATM, same playbook, different century. Start small. Capture the lender of last resort. For Giovanni, that's the Vatican. For Jamie, the Federal Reserve. Here's the problem. The Catholic Church says usury is a sin. Charging interest? Straight to hell. So, how do you build a bank when banking is illegal? You don't call it interest. Enter the letter of exchange. Here's the trick. A merchant in Florence needs money in London. You give him 100 florins in Florence. He signs a note promising to pay you back in pounds in London. 6 months later, but wait, the exchange rate shifted. Suddenly, those 100 florins are worth 111 florins when converted back. 11% return. In 6 months, you didn't charge interest. You just managed currency risk. Snap to present. Goldman Sachs. 2015. Client needs euros, has dollars. Goldman offers a structured FX swap. No interest rate, just a spread, a hedge, a derivative position. The client pays 11% annually, but it's not called a loan. It's called financial engineering. The Medici didn't invent usury. They invented regulatory arbitrage. 1,410. The Medici Bank becomes the official banker to the papal court. This is the jackpot. Every tithe, every indulgence, every crusade donation, it flows through Medici accounts first. The Pope needs money. The Medici provide a bridge loan. The Vatican needs to pay armies. Medici credit line. Within 20 years, the Vatican owes the Medici over 100,000 florins. That's more than the annual budget of most Italian city-states. The Pope is no longer the Church's master. He's the Medici's debtor. Snap to present. JP Morgan. 2020. The Federal Reserve's primary dealer. When the U.S. government needs to borrow, JP Morgan is the middleman. They run the repo market, the hidden plumbing of American debt. $4 trillion moves through it daily. Off balance sheet, invisible to most people. The Medici didn't just bank for the Pope. They became structurally necessary to Christendom. JP Morgan didn't just bank for America. They became structurally necessary to global liquidity. Same. Exact. Playbook. 1,420 seconds. The church has a problem. It needs money. Constantly. but usury is still a mortal sin. So the Medici do something revolutionary. They don't break the rules, they redefine them. Suddenly, exchange risk compensation is morally acceptable. Currency fluctuations? That's not greed. That's prudent risk management. The church adopts the new language. And just like that, capitalism is born. Interest without calling it interest. Profit without calling it profit. Snap to present 1,999 Glass-Steagall repeal. Goldman Sachs and Citigroup lobby hard. They don't say, let us gamble with deposits. They say, let us innovate financial products. By 2008, derivatives markets are worth $600 trillion, 40 times global GDP. The Medici rewrote the Bible. Goldman rewrote the law. When you're that big, you don't follow rules. You author them 1,450. The Medici Bank isn't a bank anymore. It's a network. Bruges, the textile capital of the world. Medici. London, English wool trade. Medici, Avignon. Papal exile city. Medici. They're moving 8 times their capital annually. That's not banking, that's leverage. Snap to present. BlackRock, 2024. Assets under management, $10 trillion. More than the combined GDP of Germany and France. They don't make anything. They don't sell anything. They own everything. The Medici controlled the flow of capital in Renaissance Europe. BlackRock controls the flow of capital in the modern world. Same stranglehold. Different millennium. 1513. Cardinal Giovanni de' Medici becomes Pope Leo X, a banker, on the throne of Street Peter. This isn't symbolism. This is vertical integration. 4 Medici popes. Across a century, Pope Leo X needs money to finish Street Peter's basilica. Solution? Sell indulgences. Pay the church. Reduce your time in purgatory. This breaks Christianity in half. The Reformation, the Counter-Reformation, wars that kill millions, all because a Medici Pope needed construction funds. Snap to present. 2010, Goldman Sachs executives rotate into the SEC, the CFTC, the Treasury Department. They write the rules. They enforce the rules. Then they go back to Goldman and profit from the rules. The Medici didn't just influence the church. They were the church. Goldman doesn't just influence regulators. They are the regulators. 1,478. Lorenzo de' Medici, the Magnificent, controls Florence. And he's arrogant. Pope Sixtus IV wants to buy the town of Imola. He asks Lorenzo for a loan. Lorenzo says no. Big mistake. The Pope strips the Medici Bank of its Vatican contracts, transfers everything to the rival Pazzi family. The 26th of April, 1478. The Pazzi Conspiracy. Assassins attack during Sunday Mass. They kill Lorenzo's brother, Giuliano. Lorenzo barely escapes. Lorenzo's revenge? Savage. The Pazzi are hunted, hanged, dragged through the streets. Snap to present. September 2008. Lehman Brothers needs a repo line from Goldman Sachs. Goldman says no. Lehman collapses. $600 billion bankruptcy. The financial system seizes. When you control the money, you control life and death. Refuse a pope? Assassination attempt. Refuse a bank? Systemic collapse. 1,473. The Medici have a problem. The Vatican owes them a fortune. And popes are terrible at paying back loans. Then someone discovers alum near Rome. This isn't just any mineral. Alum is the oil of the Renaissance. You need it for dyeing cloth, for tanning leather, for making glass. Without alum, European industry stops. The Medici cut a deal. They'll forgive the Pope's debt. In exchange, exclusive monopoly on Tolfa's alum. Overnight, they control the supply chain of European manufacturing. Debt erased, power doubled, snap to present. March 2008. Bear Stearns collapses. JP Morgan swoops in, buys it for $2 per share. It was worth $170 the year before. Oh, and the Fed guarantees JP Morgan against losses. Free assets, no risk. The Medici traded debt for monopoly. JP Morgan traded a crisis for assets. When the system breaks, the connected don't lose. They consolidate 1,529. Florence is the last republic in Italy. The Medici want it back. Pope Clement VII, a Medici, strikes a deal with Emperor Charles V. The emperor will conquer Florence for the Medici. The Pope will finance it through the Medici banking network. The siege lasts 10 months. Starvation, disease, cannibalism. August 1530. Florence falls. The Republic is dead. The Medici become hereditary dukes. They financed the war. They financed the defense. They financed the reconstruction. Snap to present. 2003 Iraq War. Goldman Sachs finances the U.S. debt to pay for the invasion. Then finances Iraqi reconstruction bonds. War is expensive. Rebuilding is expensive. Banks finance both sides. The Medici didn't fight wars. They monetized them. Modern banks don't start wars. They just make sure someone profits from them. 1,550 seconds. The Medici don't just influence Italy. They are Italy. Their wealth rivals the entire Italian peninsula's annual revenue. 4 popes, 2 queens of France, dukes, cardinals, bankers. They funded the greatest church in Christendom. They shaped the Renaissance. They redefined what money could buy. And they taught the world a lesson. You don't need armies to conquer nations. You need leverage. Snap to present. BlackRock advises the Federal Reserve. JP Morgan is a primary dealer for the U.S. Treasury. Goldman Sachs alumni run central banks worldwide. They don't control governments through force. They control them through debt. The Medici didn't lend money. They bought the world. One loan, one pope, one monopoly at a time. The Medici Bank collapsed in 1494. But their playbook? It's still the blueprint.